Hi, everybody. I'm Tamara Zoner.
And I'm John Davis.
Welcome to Spirit Cafe.
Come in, sit down, and
grab a cup of love.
A Spirituality Without the Guilt podcast. Hey, guys, it's me, John Davis, and I am here at Spirit Cafe. I've already had my coffee this morning, as you can probably tell, because I'm in one of those moods. And I had my vat of coffee. I do bow at the altar of Juan Valdez. And I am here this morning with my lovely co-host, the lovely Tamara Zoner. How are you today, Tamara?
I am fantastic today, John. How are you?
I am doing well. The coffee is kicking in. The caffeine is starting to go, woo! I've had so much coffee this morning, it burned the hair right off the top of my head.
Oh, my goodness.
Crazy, right? You know, it's insane. So, Tamara, why don't you introduce us and tell us a little bit about our lovely guest today?
That sounds perfect because I only know a little bit about our guest today, which is how I like it. So
there you go.
I want to welcome Joseph Corella. And Joseph is a dancer, been on Broadway, worked with, who was it? Rebel Wilson, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
We
very
did
cool.
a little cats thing.
So fun. I cannot wait to hear you tell about this. And a born again Christian raised, but no longer practicing. So I can't wait for you to tell us all about how spirituality relates to your performing and just who you are and how you show up in the world. So everybody, welcome Joseph Corella.
Yay. I have to give jazz hands.
Jazz hands. Yeah, jazz hands.
It feels appropriate for this.
Now do a little saucy and let's keep going.
I'll do a little shimmy. I got a little shimmy.
All right.
Nice.
I've had my coffee.
I've only had a couple of sips, but I don't need much.
Thank you both so much for having me on, and I'm excited to chat. And I'm not going to lie. This is the first time I'm really chatting about being raised born again Christian and what that did and where I am now through that. But I'm excited to chat about it because it's part of my journey, and I'm not ashamed of my journey, shall we say.
Oh, well, good, because shame can hold us so far back from where we're
Might have learned some shame in my life.
Yeah, well, you got two recovering Catholics here. We know a little bit about shame. I mean, you have a whole extra dose thrown on you, though, for various reasons.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about you? Let's hear your story.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Phoenix, Arizona, raised in a born-again Christian family. Went to a Christian private school, and growing up, as I got into dance when I was 7, which I'm really grateful about. And I was thinking about this the other day, the Christian private school that I went to, that's when I was introduced to musicals, which is interesting, but I'm so glad. It was such a small private school. And I really want to try and find this teacher, but one of the teachers had an after-school program, which no doubt she was really giving up a lot of her time for this. And we would put on musicals. And the first musical I did was Daniel and the Lion's Den, and I was Daniel. And I will never forget. I was so excited because we did it at chapel. We did this musical at chapel. And we didn't have to wear shoes because they had carpet on the stage. And I was so excited to not only get up and perform, but to perform in socks was so exciting to me at that time. But then, and I even remember doing a dance solo at chapel to Ave Maria. I wish I had a video of that, but I don't have a video of that. But I obviously really fell in love with the arts, and nothing was going to take that away from me. People did make fun of me a lot. I knew I was gay at a young age too, and people could sense that around me, students, and people really tried to pull me down from owning who I was and loving who I was. And I think the thing that I've learned through these years as an adult and to where I am now, I'm so grateful that I had the arts to help pull me and help keep me grounded in who I was without even really understanding that. And that's the message that I try to take. So I wound up performing professionally, Broadway national tours, did a musical in Vegas. Being from Arizona, I did some stuff in film and television as well throughout. And long story long, I wound up starting to teach. And because I was not being happy as a performer, and I started to get into teaching more, teaching adults, which I really fell in love with, teaching dance to adults. And then I wound up creating this program called 567 Broadway, which is a dance fitness class to Broadway music. And it's grown into such an incredible thing, a community of people, different types of people coming together through the power of music, dance, movement. And I really try to share the message that dance can help you, or movement can help you really understand yourself and find what's true for you. I think that's what's most important. Even today, as I chat, I'm just really want to express my experience of what I've been through, and to each their own. So, that's for sure. But what happened to me and where I am now because of it.
So beautiful. I just want to witness you for the core strength that you've clearly had from birth to move through life as a gay man in a born again Christian environment. Mm-hmm. It's hard enough in a non-religious family. Yeah. So just, from a spiritual perspective, I feel like you've been around the block a few times, because to come in with that inner core strength is pretty phenomenal. So
Thank
beautiful.
You.
I like the fact that no matter what was thrown at you, you remained your authentic self. Mm-hmm. And as the music came into play, you found even more of your authentic self. And now, as you are moving into this new venture with teaching adults how to dance, you're helping them find their authentic self. And that's the number one thing of any spiritual journey is finding who you really are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's been really amazing to, and the one thing that I learned at a young age was to try to connect to God, or like I call it the universe now.
We call it yada yada.
Yeah. There's so many the names, and there's so many things.
Yada yada. Yada yada.
I like that actually a lot. Oh my gosh, I need to maybe take that. But I really try to help people connect to what that is for them. I mean, dance to me is so spiritual. There is something magical about connecting to music, and when you connect to it, like I just was doing it because I loved it at a young age. But there were so many incredible benefits that were happening, and ultimately just helped me really stay connected to myself. I'm so grateful for it. I would not be sitting here if it weren't for dance. And I grew up very strong, born again Christian. I went to a Christian private school up until junior high. The church I went to, people were speaking in tongues, filled with the Holy Spirit. And there was for sure being gay was wrong. So there was a lot of things that I heard that were really traumatizing to me as I do believe in past lives. So I feel like I had been here before in a way, and really understood some things, but there were things that were really trying to say like, no, you are not allowed to be that. And I was like, it just felt so natural to me. And obviously too, at a young age, I did not really understand. Like, I was like, this doesn't feel right to me. This religion, it doesn't feel right. But through tons of fear pushed into me, I really, I used to try to get people saved. I would take people to in high school, I would take friends to, the church musicals that they had, at least at my place, to try to get people saved. And I really would look up and I would see only heaven, and I would look down and I would see hell. Like that's what I saw for a long time. And I will never forget, once I finally got away from Arizona and my family, and I moved to New York City to pursue my dream of being on Broadway. And a friend recommended, my roommate, Paula Wise, she recommended a book called Conversations with God. And she was very kind to me, because she knew that I was still very much a Christian at that time. And she was like, maybe you want to read this book, like maybe this book will and she never was pushy to be like, you're wrong or this is not right. And she said, maybe you want to read this book. And I read the book, and remember reading 2 chapters, and it was really just about God speaking through the universe, yada, yada, whatever it is, speaking through this as he wrote. And I was so thrown by it. I remember taking the book, putting it back in her room, but it sparked something in me. And then when I read the whole thing, I had an epiphany. Like I was like, I don't believe in Christianity for me. And I suddenly saw the stars for the first time. I looked up and I saw I saw beyond clouds and quote unquote God. And I went to the planetarium in New York City and I started crying because I really did not. I was raised so much to be kind of, for me, in a fearful, shameful bubble, and so scared. And I suddenly saw things in such an open way, and that was the real journey for me, into finding who I really was beyond that.
Right.
Wow.
That is beautiful. And it's interesting that Neil Donald Walsh, he I had a chance to share a stage with him one time.
Mm,
And very interesting guy, because when you see him, he's usually very quiet. He's a very quiet guy. And when he walks on stage, he gets very retrospective as he's talking. And
mm,
you can see that he just touched something that was a little bigger. And
yeah.
then his books let other people touch that as well. It's really a really beautiful story that you're talking about, the finding that. So my question then becomes is, what do you think of the born again Christianity now that you've had this epiphany?
I mean, I really, for me, I think anything extreme is not healthy. Like anything that, and I know that for sure, telling other people this is what you must believe, or you're going to hell, is never it's never, and that applies to many other things beyond it. I think, again, for my experience growing up like that, I used to believe that, especially knowing that I was gay at a young age, I used to believe that demons were around me. So many psychological, like, it's really, as we all know, it's like recovering from the trauma. There was a lot of trauma because there was a lot of things that were so unhealthy, and traumatic for me. My husband's Jewish, and
He gets guilt too then.
yeah, and his family's so not like he's always fascinated by the stories I tell him of how I grew up, or like, people speaking in tongues. That's a whole, because he's so not used to that. But it's, as I stepped away from being a born again Christian, I really started to heal. And I was like, oh gosh, I was really traumatized by the things that were fed to me. And I do believe that, to each their own, but also too, that we live in love
Right.
and not persecution. I'm using
Right.
persecution because that's obviously what I was taught, that
Well,
word.
To tell you,
Well, I mean, felt it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
on my front door, I have a little sign that says a whole bunch of things, but one of the things that says is, if you're here to get me to join your cult, I won't. And once that sign went on the door, they stopped knocking on my door,
That's good.
which I thought was interesting. Which I thought was interesting, because that means they think they're a cult. They related to it being a cult. Because I didn't say your religion. I didn't say if you're born again. I said if you're, if you're here to get me to join your cult. I had one that came up, and I saw it from the window. She came up to my door and she had somebody else in another vehicle in my driveway. And she walked up the door. She read the sign. She ran to her car.
She was like, "This, do not
And
afford
then
this
this devil
idea."
worshiper.
and then drove across my yard to get out of it.
Yeah.
I was
You're like, well, that's a choice.
yeah. Well, to me, that's just fear.
Fear is a foundation of that is the number one thing that I have learned for me, is that fear was a driving force by the church that I went to. I even, I did try a lot to really, after I graduated from high school, I moved to Los Angeles, and for a couple of years, and I wound up getting really heavily involved in this church. And the things that I saw, and the craziness, and fear, and being told I had to follow this guideline. I couldn't live with so and so. I mean, like, it is a cult like mind mentality, which is not healthy at all, and which is traumatizing. I think that's the word that I keep being reminded about as I heal from that, is how traumatizing fear and being fed things like demons are following me. I watched the new documentary on HBO Max about the church in Tennessee, the Remnant Church. Have you guys seen it?
No.
Oh, it's a fascinating documentary about this church in Tennessee and the craziness that happened. And I related a lot to it. And the fact that I relate to these things stepping away is really, it's sad. But also too, that's why I'm passionate about what I do now, about helping others find themselves. I don't have the answers. That's the number one thing, that because there was a lot of growing up in the church, everybody had the answer for me. Everybody, even though I knew at a young age, I had the answer, but everything was like, you don't have the, like, this is what you must do. You must
can't
deny
possibly know. It's like, we have to go by what the Bible says. And
yeah. And like all these things that were, and I knew that I knew the answer, but I kept the self-doubt, the shame, the fear, which drove me to really, really dark places. And so I really try to guide people because of dance. Dance helped me move through those things. A lot of people don't know that this is why I'm passionate about what I do, why I'm passionate about the arts, because those were the things that when I was scared out of my mind, or so fearful or anxiety or so ashamed of my body, of who I was, putting on music, closing the door to my bedroom and, growing up and putting on, Barbra Streisand, those things helped save me. They helped pull me through. And I think that's why I don't take it lightly for what I do, and trying to really help people understand the power of movement, music, connecting to your body, and finding and connecting to your heart. That's ultimately what I'm trying to do for people, is not only take care of their health, but connect to their heart so they can make the choices for their life. And their heart's going to tell them the right things to do, not everything outside of themselves, in my opinion.
Totally agree. I love that so much, because I have often said, like, it was theater and choir that saved me in high school from my super, at the time, oppressive, very Catholic mom who was like constantly shaming me, and you can't, have sex until you're married. And I didn't even have a boyfriend. I was like, okay, that's fine. I got it.
Yeah.
She's grown up, but
I love the fact that the three of us have performing arts as a base.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that finding a place where you can have that full expression of self. The other thing that Joseph, was something you said, was when you would get into that fearful place, you would go and you would listen to music, and you would get into your art, and you found a place of love, and God is love. And so you found that place of God without having to go to the church or the people in the church who are telling you can only find it here. I think that God, source, yada yada, is in every aspect of our day, but it's for us to find.
Absolutely.
And I think you've found it in the performing arts and music.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I see the universe now so much more. I see the universe how I really did in my purest self as a kid, before everything started layering on top of me with all of that. It was, and I will say that, I really did try to numb my true self in a way, through all the fear and through all the religious pushing down on me, through drugs, through alcohol. I'm not going to lie. Like, there was those things. I'm not going to say that things were perfect, but that's the thing, is that dance was the thing that kept saying, no, don't go that way, go this way. And then every time I would get into that dark place, it was funny because, you hear about so much being raised born again Christian. It's always that, like, the demons are after you, but ultimately it was that, and sinning and all these things. But like, every time I tried to do what the church told me, it took me to that dark place. I think that was the thing. And then when I finally stepped away, I was able to properly heal and properly become take care of myself in a great way. Not like when I was trying to do what the church told me, I was becoming twisted, shall we say, and doing things that were not natural to me, which drove me to be not the best person.
Right.
That's so interesting.
I part of your story that really does intrigue me, because I'm a firm believer that love in any way is not wrong. Love in any way is not wrong. Because if God is love, then an expression of love in any way is not wrong.
Yeah.
I grew up in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, which is known as the nation's gay summer capital. So I got lots of gay friends, right? Oh, you would love it. You would absolutely love it. It's about 3 hours east of Washington, D.C., hour and a half south of Philadelphia. And it's a beautiful, beautiful beach town.
I can imagine.
Beautiful. But what I found really interesting is the issue with the organized religions and the homosexual community was that because I lived in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, and we had a beautiful Catholic diocese there, the diocese owned a giant beach mansion. And that's where all the priests would come to vacation. And so all summer long, we would see the priests, going out to the gay bars and doing all these things. And every so often we'd be walking past the gay bar, and the priest would come out and say, "Evening, Father," and you'd see their face go white because, oh my God, they recognized me, right? And I'm like, God, what a terrible life that they must be leading to hide in who they are for their religion, and yet still be so open when they come to Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, right? It's very unique and very different experience.
I mean,
did you find that because of the way you love and how you love, that in the church itself, you really felt like you were hiding?
That's I think I was doing what I was taught to do, because I grew up from the moment my parents were Catholic, and then they wound up converting to being born again Christians right before I was born. Mm-hmm. So it was immediately, I was taught, go to the church, God in church, and that is always going to be the place that will help you. And so I would always turn to that. But what happened was after high school, that's when really things kicked in, was really after high school. And when I tried to go to the church, I was part of the praise and worship team. There was so many things that I don't want to get into now, but there were so many things that happened there that really opened my eyes. And then suddenly that safe space of church was shattered, shall we say. Mm-hmm. And I really started seeing the truth. But I would live those two alternate lives, because I was in a way openly gay when I would go out to gay bars, but then I would it was that tug and pull. I was living two separate lives, mm-hmm. which really leads you to dark places. It is really, really scary. And there was really moments in my life I started losing touch with myself. The thing is that, and I think I had in a way lost really touch long before that, but the universe was did give me signs to wake up. And that's the thing. And I would hear those signs, but there was a lot of depression. I probably needed therapy at that time. I wound up seeking therapy years later, but I did need help. And again, alcohol and drugs were the thing that I kind of turned to at that time. I mean, when I drank, it was like blacking out, because I felt I needed to be numb. I hated who I was. I was taught to deny my truth. Yeah. And that is such a, that's why I'm so passionate when I teach and when I'm around other people. I'm like, you are amazing. You are who you are right now. Even in the fitness industry, you see there's such beauty standards. Mm-hmm. I'm like, no, you are amazing right now the way you are. There's so many things that tell us that we aren't good enough, that we need to be more, that you shouldn't be this, that you shouldn't be. And it's like, no, we are great where we are. But again, like you had said before, it's like, if you're living in love, there's you know when you're living in love, and you know when you're living in that dark place. And you can for sure sense when people are. I've learned, the main thing I've learned is that when someone is screaming at you, telling you you are wrong, run far, right away. Run. Good advice. Do not give into it. They're the ones that are doing the craziest stuff behind the scenes. And if people are screaming at you and telling you that you're sinful and all these things, those people, it's that is just step go. And I do that myself. It frustrates me watching things, especially these last couple of years. You really see a lot of people showing them their true selves, but
Oh,
I'm like,
absolutely.
run away from it, run.
Yeah. So many lessons in such a young life. Oh my. How so you went to Broadway, you did that thing, you did some, and you found eventually that teaching is your calling. And how do you bring your spirituality now into your dance classes? Is it like covert spirituality?
Kind of, in a way. Yeah, it really is. Because I feel that the arts, I mean, the arts history has always shown that the arts do transform communities. They help build communities. And I think in nations, shall we say. But I really try to get people into I say call it magic. Like I call it really, like, especially when you're dancing and when your endorphins kick in, when you're like, yay, it's like, I call that dance magic. But there is science behind it that is like, yes, when you do this, the universe, when you take care of your body and when you get your heart rate up, you get endorphins, which is the universe giving you a natural high, which is beautiful. But I really especially deal with people sometimes that don't understand that, and so they are like, maybe haven't really exercised. I've danced since I was a kid, so like I've experienced that a lot. But there is like that spiritual connection when you connect to music and you that's what I love, when you let go of the voices in your head, when you're when you're moving and you feel the music and you get lost into it. That is it's such a feel good, and it is a spiritual connection, in my opinion. And it helps you go to this magical place that is and it's unique for each person, but it's having to let go of here and listen to your heart and listen to. And that's why when we watch performers on stage, when good performers and actors and TV and all over, but when they let go and you can feel that and you connect to who they are. And that's why you get the chills when you're sitting on. I like to remind students, I'm like, we've all gotten the chills watching a performance, like where you're like, oh my gosh, like that is to me a spiritual experience with nothing is happening except me sitting there and something is taking over. And I try to remind people, let's not take that lightly.
That is exactly what I teach on my YouTube channel as well, because it's the I think of spirituality as not a thinking, but a feeling. And we have to find that feeling place. And much like you, I love your tie-in to your spirituality and the physical experience. I was a professional fight director for years and years and years. I did fight choreography, and I did a comedy sword fighting show all over the world. And so, but the moments that I remember from what we did a show called Hack and Slash, and we would do these really intricate sword fights at the end of the show. And we would come to the moment of the fight, and we'd kneel down, and we had all kinds of funny jokes and stuff back and forth. And just before the fight, both of us would exhale and blank our minds.
Yeah.
And just go into it without thinking choreography, without thinking, and just being in that moment and in motion and feeling every action. It was absolutely a spiritual experience. I mean, and what I found the most interesting was the more I let go of my mind, the smoother everything went, the faster everything went. Everything was much more perfectly synced, just in the fact that we were not letting our mind get in play. And I think a lot of what you have been through has been you figuring out how to work with your mind as well as your body.
Yeah. It's been both. It's nice to be, I will say it's nice to be sitting here today talking to you both, like, because there was a time that it felt like I would never make it to this point, that I felt so scared, so much anxiety of I just, even though dance taught me to be present in my body, when that moment of not loving myself, not being connected to my heart, I felt so scared. So it's nice to be sitting here and saying, yeah, this is what I've been through. But yeah, I do feel that like movement connects to you, body and mind. It does, in a way that is, and that's why I like saying movement more than dance. Dance can scare
Mhm.
scare people. Like you're like dance, and they're like, God, I have two left feet. I hear that all the time. I have two left feet, and I'm like, well, it's okay. But when you dance from your heart, there is something and it helps connect you in
Mhm.
whatever spiritual way you want to go. That's another
Mhm.
thing too. Like everybody, we're all on our own journey. I don't want to say that um to each their own and whatever works, but when we connect to our heart, that is, I do know that will guide you to live in love, and that will guide you to make the right choices to be the best you can be in this world, to a certain extent, whatever that is. But and I love that dance and movement connects people, of all different types of people. When you
Mhm.
put on music, we said you're using the language of movement. You don't,
And
and
the universe, like music is the language of the universe. And I love
absolutely.
it in movement, as you were talking about great performances, like time and space just fade away. And all there is this moment. And that's what, like, I'm not a give me dance steps and I can follow them. No, I'd like do my own thing, but put me on a dance floor. And I actually was at a wedding a couple of months ago and people were like, you got everybody on the dance floor, because I just like, I
You
think what
let
it
go.
does is that when we allow it to move through us, then the little self steps aside and the higher self steps in and guides. And it's
Yep.
just this beautiful euphoria. And it's like, that is where truth exists,
Hmm.
in those moments of stepping out of our own ways and allowing whatever kind of movement. I don't care if you're climbing a tree or
True.
walking
Exactly.
down, walking in a park, or
Making a sandwich. That's what I do.
I mean, that can be
You're like,
meditative as well.
Damn right.
But dance is
Oh, look at the
something
way I'm cutting
special.
this.
Dance is something really, really special, especially
yeah,
if you can get your brain out of the way and stop like that
yeah.
self-critical observer. Yeah.
It's a discipline, that's for sure.
Mhm.
I also to remind people, like, especially if they're going to come to take my class, like if they're new, like take it a couple times, because you're gonna, it's an experience, and each day is going to be different, and so just give yourself a couple times to really get into the groove of it. But like you said too, I think the thing, I want to get the sign that says follow your heart, put it back here. Cause I think that's another thing too. I know for me, I'm spreading, I want to share the message of what I've learned through dance to as many people as I can. However, I also understand too, follow your heart. If your heart is telling you to do something, do it. My heart told me so much when I was growing up. And I don't obviously I could only do as much as I could growing up. But my heart was like, this is wrong. I should have listened. I wish I could have listened to that and held on to that. But I was a kid in this environment, and
Right,
that's
right.
what
Right.
happened. But I really try to encourage people, follow your heart. If your heart's telling you to go paint, go paint. You don't have to like it, just do it. There's something your higher self, the universe, whatever you want to call it, is guiding you to the
Yes.
next section. And to really there were so many of those signs for me that I've really had to listen into, and I know how it feels to deny it, and what happens when I deny it, and where that, ultimately everything's kind of leading in the direction it should at the end of the day, but we do have the power to make choices. And what choice do we want to make today?
I,
Mhm.
I love that. I love that. And another part of this is that should have is a past experience that someone
Yeah.
basically inflicted upon you, and you have to be able to forgive yourself. And the should have is
Yeah.
regret. You know, okay, it happened. There's nothing I can do about it. What am I doing right now? I
Yep.
am living and loving. I'm
Yeah.
enjoying and experiencing.
And
You
even
know,
to build on that, to look back and go, okay, what benefits did I actually get from this? How have I grown and what have I learned from it that led me to who I am and where I am right now today? Because this version of me is pretty freaking awesome. So, and I wouldn't be the same person if not for my past experiences. So I
Absolutely.
always ask people to reframe. Like, if you're thinking this ruined my life, no, it didn't. You're here right now today. What have you learned? How have you grown? And how are you, because of that experience, this amazing person in front of me?
100%. I agree with
Yeah.
that. And that's why for me, I really feel now my heart is telling me because I've really never, you guys are honestly the first people that I've shared about my born again Christian upbringing on a public platform. And my heart is telling me that it's time to own my story and not not feel that I might ruffle feathers and I might this is my journey. I'm proud of my journey in every aspect of it, honestly. And I'm sharing my experience of what happened. And it feels like it's time, because for the longest time I was like, I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to do that. But now I feel like, yeah, I've been through, experienced all these different things that, who knows, it might help someone. My whole thing is, we have to help people in this world. And we do that by sharing our experiences. And I know that's instead of being like, I'm going to tell you what to do, I'm just going to share my experience. And hopefully maybe someone hears that and it can help them on their journey at some time.
I think it's absolutely beautiful. I think it's absolutely beautiful, because you're absolutely right. There are people out there who are going to hear your story and completely relate to it. There's people out there who have been knocked down by fear and anxiety of organized religions for so long that those organized religions are designed to keep you in fear, because it keeps you in the religion. And you have surpassed that, and you've come to a place where you found, yada yada God in the very, very present moment. And that to me is the most beautiful thing, because if you really want to dive into something interesting, Moses said God's name was I am. Well, I am is just your present moment statement. So it's you in your present moment finding that source. And I think that's beautiful. And stepping out right now, I can tell you from experience, 15 years ago, I used to speak on spiritual matters, and I stopped doing it because of the reactions that I was getting. Because you said earlier about reincarnation, I have a past life memory that I bring forward now. And years ago, they could only hear about that past life. They couldn't hear about what I was trying to teach. And so I stopped doing it. And I came back out recently and started talking about my past life stuff again. And the audience is entirely different now. The audience is much more receptive now. And I think you coming out right now is a big part of helping someone else come to that next level, that rise in consciousness that we're all seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it does feel right. The time feels, my heart has always guided me in the right direction, whether we want to call it the universe, whatever that is. Like there's something in here that says, okay, share that experience. The time is now to do that. And I'm doing it.
So we're so glad you're doing it. And I applaud your courage, because it really does take courage to step into that and share and bear ourselves to the world. I mean, the world isn't that big in Spirit Cafe yet, but we're growing.
We are doing.
So how, speaking of your classes, so where do you do only live classes, or do you do online classes? How do we get to share in the experience of dance that is Joseph Corella?
Yeah, so I do virtual classes right now. As we entered the pandemic, I went virtually. So you can find everything at 567broadway.com. But I have a workout video. I have a YouTube channel that has free content on it. So there's many ways to connect. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. But everything's at 567broadway.com, and social media is all 567broadway or 567 Broadway. But again, don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions.
Awesome. I'll become your newest stalker, and we'll put all that good stuff up on.
Okay, she's not kidding, Joseph. Be afraid. Be very, very afraid.
Like a gay Broadway guy. Yes, I'm in heaven. Gay men are my favorite.
I love it.
I was once called a fly girl by a bartender in some gay bar.
Oh my God, I love the fly girls.
It's like, you're always here with the cutest gay boys. I'm like, yeah, they're my best friends.
That's awesome.
Who else is more accepting than somebody who's been through it,
Yeah. True story.
Yeah.
I find this whole conversation just so completely beautiful. It makes me feel good, makes the hair stand up on my arms, because it won't stand up here anymore. Right? And I think it's so powerful, so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing. It was very brave.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me on and creating a space to have discussions like this. So thank you.
Quite welcome.
It's such a pleasure. You want me to wind it down and take us out?
Wind us down. I got to go pick up my kid at school.
Right. I just want to thank Joseph for his courage for coming on the show and for being here and sharing your beautiful and tumultuous story. And just a reminder to all of our listeners, that's what life is. We're not meant to have just a smooth sail. We are meant to face challenges and then have our triumphs from them and grow and learn and share in spirit of love. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, John. And please look Joseph up on all those fabulous places and let's have a dance party. Okay, we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for joining us at Spirit Cafe, a place where you can safely explore your spirituality without the guilt or dogma of religion. Leave all comments and suggestions on the Spirit Cafe podcast Facebook page.